Dumb Money is a movie that really intrigued me. It was a movie that I was looking forward to for quite some time because this feels like a movie that would be completely up my alley. And I've been loving all these business movies that have been coming out this year. I mean, you got The Beanie Bubble, which not many people talk about. You have Air, you have Tetris, you have Blackberry. I really enjoyed all those movies. And now we have this one. Dumb Money. And I feel like it was going to be in the same kind of spirit of The Big Short. And I'm not the first person to notice that. You look at the comment section for the trailer, everyone's saying the exact same thing. And they're right. This movie does have a lot of Big Short-like energy. So I took my dad to the press screening in Vancouver, and I'm here to tell you if it sucks or if it's worth a watch. Hey guys, my name is Brandon, aka the BrandoCritic. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I really do appreciate it. This is like my 11th time trying to start this video. It's just one of those times where it's like you don't really know what to say. And honestly, I threw my script in the garbage, or like my notes. I just feel like I'm a slave to it sometimes. I'm just gonna be going off the cuff with this one. I have some notes about like who directed it and who stars in it, that kind of stuff. But this is gonna be a really off the cuff review, so let's get it done. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I really do appreciate it. But also let me know what your thoughts are of the movie, Dumb Money. Are you guys looking forward to seeing it? Whatever your thoughts are, leave them down in the comment section down below. I read every single comment. Now, Dumb Money. Let's get started. Craig Gillespie is our director, and he directed Cruella a couple years ago, and he also directed I, Tonya, $1 Million Arm, Fright Night, and many others, and it stars Paul Dano, Shailene Woodley, who I think has to give her agent a raise because she's in quite a few things now. Pete Davidson, Vincent D'Onofrio, Seth Rogen, Sebastian Stan. There are a lot of big names in this movie. And of course, the story is about all the Redditors who basically propped up the price of GameStop, and all the hedge funds lost a lot of money a few years ago. And it feels weird to be watching a movie about an event that took place only 2 years ago. We are already watching movies about COVID and about just things that happened during that time. It just feels so odd because I feel like there's like this unwritten rule in Hollywood that you gotta wait a certain time before you make a movie about a certain thing. Like United 93 came out 5 years after 9/11. If it came out like 2 years later, I feel like it would just be like, you know, almost like too soon, you know what I mean? But regardless, it felt weird to watch a movie that was so recent. Like I could look up on Google after the movie, which is what I did, the actual GameStop stock, and you actually see, you know, the giant markup happened just 2 years ago. So like it's relevant information still. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I took my dad to see this movie, and he is an accountant. So he's a big finance guy. He loved the movie. As soon as he got out, I'm like, hey dad, what'd you think of the movie? Oh, it's awesome. Totally awesome. Like he was really enjoying this movie. So what are my thoughts on Dumb Money? Here's the thing. I think I enjoy the subject matter of this movie more than the actual movie itself, which has happened a few times. And I feel like Limitless is one of those movies, right? This is an example where like the discussion about what would you do with that pill is more engaging than the actual movie itself. Now this movie is better than Limitless, I would say, but it brings up an interesting argument because as you guys know from my other videos, I often talk about the film lover side of my brain and the film critic side of my brain. This is the more cynical side. You know, you notice like the camera angles, you notice like the script, the direction, some certain acting performances. Then the film lover side of your brain is like, oh, the action's awesome, it's really funny, you know, it has, you know, wizards in it, and I love wizards, so I love Harry Potter, like that kind of stuff. It's like just your interests, and then of course your more critical side of your brain. This side of my brain, the critical side, can, you know, pull this movie apart and say, you know what, that didn't really work, that didn't really work, but I really enjoyed the subject matter of this movie, therefore I was really engaged throughout the entire thing. But it brings up an interesting argument. So I'll go, okay, well, I really like the subject matter, I really like the movie, right? But then again, people will go, okay, well, if you have to be interested in the subject matter, then the movie's not really that good because people who are not interested in the subject matter cannot watch it. And I kind of agree with that because I've said for many years, a good movie can get people invested in something that might not interest them. Right? Now, what's my point to all this? I like how this movie tackles the little guy versus the man, the money, the suits, the real David versus Goliath storyline. There's a reason why that storyline is so popular. There's a reason why the underdog is always the team you root for in sports. Every sports movie seems to be about the underdog. Everyone wants to beat something that is bigger than they are. You have the rebels versus the empire, right? This movie really captures the essence of that. You have all of these different characters really struggling. You know, COVID was a hard time for a lot of people. People lost their jobs, people lost their homes, people were not doing financially well, people lost loved ones like some of the characters did in this movie. It was a tough time, but yet people in these giant hedge funds on Wall Street, like the 1%, the 1% of the 1%, were just getting richer and richer and richer. And that dynamic, that gap between classes was really getting stretched, and it was like a rubber band. It had to snap at one point, and that's what this movie really is about. And I loved seeing that. People really cheered after this movie. People did like a, woo, yeah, let's go. People got into it, and I love that about this movie. However, this movie doesn't really focus on any one character. Of course, you think that it actually talks about this Roaring Kitty fella, this live streamer, talking about the different stocks and his family. You see that he's got a wife, a kid, he's got a brother who is kind of a, kind of a low life, right? Like he's working for DoorDash and yet he's drinking the drinks from the DoorDash customers. So you think the movie would be about him and like he gets the most focus for sure, but I don't really understand the family dynamic. There's a little bit of drama there between him and his wife and him with his kid, but it's minimal, right? Because you have to focus on all these other characters in the movie. Like there's like these two girls in college, they're in this whole GameStop thing as well. You have this nurse played by America Ferrera. You know, she's a struggling nurse, she's an essential worker, and she's got 2 kids, she doesn't have a husband, she doesn't have a boyfriend, and she's struggling and she's in debt, but she's really into this GameStop thing. You have a worker at GameStop played by the guy from Transformers, I forget his name. So on one hand, it's cool to see how this giant thing is affecting so many different people around the world who don't really know each other, but they're connected in this way. But what kind of sucks about it is that I don't really know these people. It doesn't really give me a reason to care about them other than the fact is that they are financially struggling, and you have these other people who are not financially struggling, like Vincent D'Onofrio, Seth Rogen. But another problem that I have is that I don't really know anything about them. Yes, they have a lot of money, and that's the reason why we don't like them. Yeah, there's like one phone call where Seth Rogen wants to talk about putting in a tennis court for, he wants to buy this property and just knock it down to buy a tennis court because they want to just do something during the pandemic. So it's like, okay, there's people are struggling, but this guy has like, all this money. So of course we hate him, right? Not really. They don't really do a very good job at making us really despise the villains. Take Big Short, for example. Yes, like there's this entity that we hate because it's Wall Street and it's the money, but you actually see, is his name Max Greenfield, the guy who plays Schmidt from New Girl? Whatever, you know who I'm talking about. You see him in that movie doing some pretty bad things. Like these guys are just jerks. They are high off their own supply. These guys, the villains in this movie, don't really act like villains. You even see Seth Rogen with his wife and his kids. He's a pretty stand-up, normal guy, right? You do see Sebastian Stan do some pretty terrible things, but again, like the movie doesn't really focus enough on him for me to really hate him. So that's the thing. I feel like this movie is a missed opportunity. Make me really care about our heroes, our people who are in this GameStop fiasco and just holding out for that perfect sell. But then you also need us to really hate the villains. And I don't think that this movie really did a good job at doing that. And I do think this movie kind of lacked focus. Now, I understand that these people were real, or so the movie says anyway, but I do think that you could have cut 1 or 2 of them and maybe focus more on the actual family of this guy. And there would have been more dynamic there. So again, this movie is very entertaining because, of course, we love seeing the underdog, and we do love seeing those scenes where it's like, oh my God, look at the stock now, and you see all this news footage, and it's still pretty recent, it's still pretty fresh in people's minds. But I do think that there could have been some more flair to the movie, and I don't think that all the dialogue really hits. This movie is trying to be a Big Short, trying to be a Vice, trying to be an Aaron Sorkin movie, but you can just tell that this is like the diet version of it. So when dissecting this movie, I can't really point to anything and say that was done poorly, that was done wrong, but I do see a version of this movie that could have been really fantastic, and it just kind of misses the mark. You know what I mean? This could have been a great big ice cream sundae. It's just a small vanilla cone. It's good, but you could see that the potential there to be something greater than it actually is. So for an overall rating, I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed this movie. The reason why I'm not giving this a higher rating is because I just don't know how many times I will be watching this movie again, how often it will be playing in my mind, and it's just frustrating to see the potential for this movie not fully realized. Yes, it is sad to see America Ferrera struggle in this movie. It's sad to see, all these other characters struggle in this movie. But it's also hard to see these villains of the movie just not get their real menacing moment. I'm waiting for that to happen, and it really doesn't. So there you have it, folks. Those are my thoughts on Dumb Money. Whatever you thought of the movie, let me know down in the comment section down below. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos just like this, then definitely hit like and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel on a deeper and more personal level, then Patreon is down below in the description. You guys get a chance to win movies every single month. You guys get monthly watch-alongs, and you guys get to see content early, so that interests you. Patreon is down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.